voters here know a thing or two about being disrespected, underestimated, and counted out. South Carolina is unlike any other place and unlike any other primary because it doesn't just make or break a candidate. It reveals who they truly are.
We know Joe, but most importantly, Joe knows us.
Joe Biden's journey from senator to vice president to America's first black president.
So how many guys?
Took him to the dirt roads, manufacturing plants, and churches that make up the soul of the Democratic faithful in South Carolina. And when our country needed a fighter for its soul, it was Joe Biden who stepped up. And it was South Carolina who gave a nation lost its pathway back.
Joe Biden is the winner in South Carolina.
Betting on this state for a comeback.
For all those of you who've been knocked down, counted out, left behind, this is your campaign.
Joe Biden took our hope and delivered on his promises with his eyes set on the future.
It is official. South Carolina will hold the first primary.
Joe Biden saw us, heard us, and never stopped fighting for us.
If you ever doubt that, power to change America is in your hands. Remember this, you proved it. You're the reason I am president.
There's something special about South Carolina, this place, this primary, where one night in February can change everything, where the faith of the man and the faith of a people can carry the dreams of an entire nation, and where for as long as we breathe, hope endures. Thank you, Joe.
All right, thank y'all so much. And before we get started with this very brief program, y'all, I wanted to take 2 seconds and just thank the people that work so hard every day to make this happen. The staff of the South Carolina Democratic Party. When you see them with that lanyard, please thank them. And I'll single out our executive director, who's the voice of God right now, Jay Parmley, y'all. Thank them for us. And I'd be remiss if I did not acknowledge my beautiful mother, who is sitting in the front, Melvina Spain, and my devoted partner, Gordon Smith. All right, y'all. Good evening, South Carolina Democrats. Welcome and thank you for joining us for this important celebration, because tonight is about history. Tonight is about leadership. And tonight is about a president who kept his promise. We are proud, and I mean so very proud, to welcome back to South Carolina the 46th president of these United States of America, President Joseph R. Biden, Jr. 6 years ago, when so many counted him out, when pundits had already written the headlines, when the path looked narrow and uncertain, South Carolina stood up. From the church pews to the American Legion halls, from the campuses of our HBCUs, from the farms in the PD, to our coastal communities, all the way up to the upstate, we saw character. We saw resilience. We saw a man who understood loss, faith, dignity, and the quiet strength of working people. And on that February night, South Carolina did what South Carolina does best. We made the difference. We didn't just change a primary, we changed the trajectory of the Democratic Party. And ultimately, we changed the country. And let me take this moment to make this personal. In 2020, that night wasn't just a win on a scoreboard, it was a course correction. For months, people have been talking about the Democratic primary as if South Carolina didn't matter, as if the Deep South didn't matter, as if black voters would simply fall in line wherever we were told. And then South Carolina voted. As a black woman, as someone who has organized in counties who are often left off the map, as someone who has watched this state be underestimated cycle after cycle, I knew what that meant. It meant that the Democratic Party could not choose a nominee without listening to the voters who are the very backbone of its party. It meant you cannot build a national majority while skipping the communities that deliver it. And it meant when South Carolina speaks, the country listens. In 2020, that election night reset the trajectory of a race. It unified a party, and it paved the way to defeating Donald Trump. That wasn't luck. That was strategy. That was trust. That was a president who respected the voters who have historically made this party strong. And since that night, President Biden has honored that trust, not just with gratitude, but with governing. Let's be clear about something. Biden didn't just win, he delivered. He delivered historic infrastructure investments, rebuilding roads and bridges right here in South Carolina. And don't let the Republicans take credit for it. He delivered lower prescription drug costs for seniors. He delivered record job growth and new manufacturing investment. He delivered clean energy, jobs, and broadband expansion. He strengthened NATO and restored stability on the world stage. He brought steady leadership back to the White House. Not chaos, not drama, just results. And that matters. Now hear me clearly. Tonight is about celebrating leadership that delivered for the American people. South Carolina Democrats have a tradition. When leaders show up for us, we show up for them. That's who we are. This state understands loyalty, we understand faith, and we understand results. President Biden believed in South Carolina when others didn't, and South Carolina believed in him. That partnership reshaped in American politics. And while we celebrate tonight, let me also say this. Democrats in South Carolina, and throughout the Deep South for that matter, are building. Here in South Carolina, we are organizing in every county. We are recruiting candidates across the ballot, and we are investing in data, voter protection, and a coordinated infrastructure. We are preparing to win in 2026 and beyond. We are not spectators in the story of this country. We are the authors of it. So tonight, we celebrate a president who delivered. We celebrate a victory that changed history. And we recommit ourselves to the work ahead. Because democracy is not about one night, an event over one night. It's a daily responsibility. Never, ever underestimate the power of the Deep South. Never underestimate the power of black voters. And never, ever, ever, ever underestimate the power of South Carolina Democrats. And with that, it is my great honor to introduce our beloved Congressman, James E. Clyburn.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks to all of you for being here this evening. As I sat thinking about what I should say, I thought about 4 months from this evening, when we will pause to celebrate the 250th birthday of this great country. And it is a great country, in no need of being made great. And thinking about that birthday, I remembered from my studies at that little HBCU down in Orangeburg, South Carolina State. I remember from my studies a little passage written in a little pamphlet called The Crisis, when this country was trying to give birth to itself. Back in 1776. Watching what was going on in this country, which was divided, a man named Thomas Paine, who was not an American, who was visiting here from England, observing what was going on. And he sat down to write what he was observing. And he wrote these words: "These are times that try men's souls. Summer soldiers and sunshine patriots will, in the crisis, shrink from the service of their country, but he that stands it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman, for tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. Yet the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph." Those words, written 250 years ago, are just as apropos tonight as they were then. We are living in a time that's trying the souls of this great country. And we have no sympathy, nor do we have any patience for summer soldiers or sunshine patriots, people who can stand for this country as long as the weather is right, people who love the country as long as things are going their way. What we need today is what we got back in February 2020. A man who saw this country at a crossroads, who brought himself into the fight, who came to South Carolina with full faith and confidence in these United States of America, who had been counted out by all of the pundits, but who kept saying, let's wait and see what happens in South Carolina. And this state responded once again. It was not the first time that this state delivered a winner to the Democratic Party. It was this state that did it for Bill Clinton. If you do not remember, now I can understand. I'm getting ready to celebrate the 47th anniversary of my 39th birthday. So I can understand if you all don't remember, but I remember. And I remembered what we did in little old South Carolina for Barack Obama. Hillary Clinton. in every instance, the candidate that won the primary in this state went on to become the nominee of our party, with one exception, who happened to have been a native of South Carolina. And then when the nominee got the office, he had enough good sense to put that South Carolinian on the ticket. So South Carolina has done it time and time again. And so when people debate what should be our future when it comes to nominating candidates, just look at the record. Don't worry about what anybody says, about what they may think. Tell them to consult the record. You should be proud of what you've done, not just for this party, but for this country. Now, Joe Biden has been a friend of mine for a long time. We first met in the home of Don and Carol Fowler. Where's Carol? I think I saw her somewhere here tonight. I can understand if she has gone home. And I should never forget, when I met him, I knew I was meeting somebody special. And he's demonstrated time and time again how special he is. When he became president, he delivered every single thing that he promised to deliver. He gave us the rescue plan that brought this country back from the brink of disaster. He gave us the bipartisan infrastructure bill that gave us the largest infrastructure bill this country has seen since Dwight Eisenhower's interstate program. He gave us the Inflation Reduction Act that said to senior citizens, those on Medicare, we are going to cap your insulin costs at $35 a month. He gave us the program that said to our veterans that you who fought in the Vietnam War, who never got your full appreciation from this country, that we're going to go back and look at your records, and we are going to change the application of those qualifications. And I shall never forget, I was in Iowa in a little Baptist church, and I was about to take my seat. I saw a gentleman being wheeled down the center aisle in a wheelchair. I had no idea what was on his mind, but when I left the podium, I walked over to him and spoke to him. And he said this to me. He said, I was in the Vietnam War. And I came back home unappreciated. And when I filed for my disability, I got 15%. You see, I'm in this wheelchair. but I got 15%. He said, but because of Joe Biden, and when y'all pass that law, I went back and refiled, and I came out of there with 100%. He says, Joe Biden didn't just move things forward. He reached back and got those of us who had been not treated fairly and brought us along with the rest of y'all. So that's why I asked this young man to wheel me in here today. That's what Joe Biden has been all about. Now, I said to President Biden that when I was coming along in politics, I used to say that there's no substitute for substance. But I've since modified that, because today there seems to be more emphasis placed on style than substance. For some strange reason, style trumps substance. And that is an intended pun. That's an intended pun. But those of us who love this country, those of us who are going to do the things that are necessary to help this country live out its true meaning, that all men and women are created equal, we know that substance matters. And we know that there is no American ever who has demonstrated through his service more substance, and I might add sustenance, than Joe Robinette Biden. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend, your friend, the man who knows us like we know him, Joe Robinette Biden.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. South Carolina, it's good to be back home. On my way down here, I was thinking about how South Carolina has played an incredible role in my career long before 2020. You know, it started in 1972. I was the youngest man in American history ever elected to the United States Senate. When I was elected, I wasn't old enough to be sworn in. When I got elected to the Senate, it was tragically lost. I got a phone call when I was hiring staff in Washington. And the poor person from the volunteer fire company said, "You got to come home. There's been an accident." And told me that, and the poor kid, I felt badly. She said, "You got to come home. Your wife was Christmas shopping with your 3 kids. She's dead. Your daughter's dead, and your boys are not likely to make it." Well, South Carolina's Fritz Hollings and his wife, Pizzi, wrapped their arms around me and supported me. And they were a big reason why I stayed in the Senate, because I decided, I said they can always get another senator, but they can't get another father, mother. Well, Fritz put his arms around for real. He was a powerful senator then. Pulled me in with Pizzi, and everything became history. I was the youngest person put on the most important committees of the Senate. They kept me engaged. And then almost 50 years later, another South Carolinian member of Congress saved me. You just heard from him, Jim Clyburn. No, this is not hyperbole. Jim has more integrity in his little finger than most people have in their whole body. Jim's a true public servant, as loyal as the day's long. Jim, you and Miss Emily were the best friends Jill and I could have asked for at that time. And thank you for the leadership of South Carolina Democratic Party, especially Crystal. You know, I don't know where you are, but I know you're there. There's so many friends here tonight to whom I owe such a deep debt of gratitude. Mayor Stephen Benjamin, you've been with me for a long time, Steve. And the people in Columbia, through thick and thin. Jamie Harrison. I knew you were good, Jamie, but when I got a call from Jim Clyburn and said, I can tell you who should be the party chairman of the National Party, I really knew who you were. I said, yes, sir. Folks, I was asked 6 years ago on this weekend in this state, I came here. People in this room brought my candidacy for president back from the brink. A lot of pundits, people in the press, had given up on me. Do you remember that? I know I do. But you never gave up on me. You always knew that if I could just get this, I knew, if I just get to South Carolina, I mean sincerely, Franny was with me the whole time. If I could just get to South Carolina, I could win the nomination. And I knew if I won the nomination, I'd win the presidency, because I knew what Bill Clinton and Barack Obama knew before me. South Carolina picks presidents. Not a joke. Folks, when it matters, you were there for me. You believed in me. And I went on to know something else. You should know. I believed in you too. I believed in your judgment, your wisdom, your loyalty. I knew they'd never let me down. So I'm here tonight to say, first and foremost, thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. The Bidens love South Carolina. And by the way, I got one Biden with me tonight, Finnegan Biden. Where are you, Finny? My granddaughter. Anyway, Finnegan's here, and all the Bidens are here. But we kind of like the beach, too, anyway. But, folks, as grateful I am to all of you who have done for me, that night 6 years ago was a whole lot more than about me. That night, South Carolina put the Democratic Party on a path to victory. And 11 months later, I stood on the steps of the United States Capitol and took the oath of office as President of the United States of America. We have an expression in my home state. You go home with them that brought you to the dance. Well, you all brought me to the dance. You're my friends, and you brought me. I'll never forget that. I mean that sincerely. For 4 years every day, I woke up determined to live up to the faith you placed in me. Committed to delivering on the promises I made to you. To fight for communities left behind. Treat all with dignity and respect. To give everyone a fair shot in to the American dream. As president, I didn't see America as a place where you demonize others. I mean it sincerely, from the bottom of my heart. I didn't see America as a place where some get ahead and others get left behind. I didn't see America as a place where to lift someone up, you got to hold someone else down. I didn't see America as a place that was big enough. I saw it as big enough, strong enough, big-hearted enough that everyone get an even shot. No one gets left behind. That's still the country I believe in. I mean it. And folks, with your help, I kept every one of my promises I made you. Let me remind you what we accomplished during that short time. I said when I was here in South Carolina, I said I'm going to appoint a black woman to the United States Supreme Court, and I told you, and we did it. I told you I was going to pick a woman as Vice President of the United States of America, and we did it. We generated the lowest unemployment rate for blacks in the history of America. 400,000 black children out of poverty nationwide. And across the country, we grew black business ownership at the fastest rate in over 3 decades. And by the way, I knew HBCUs were central to our education system. But HBCUs didn't have the endowments and the funds to build the labs and improve the campus infrastructure. That's why I got us to invest $16 billion in historically black universities. I mean it, $16 billion. And I signed, which I was so proud to do, the Emmett Till anti-lynching law to make lynching a hate crime for the first time in our nation's history. We pretended it didn't happen. Folks, the list goes on. We left the country better than we found it, not only for black Americans, for every American. In the red states, in the blue states, in rural America, in urban America, and yes, Trump voters as well as Biden voters have promised every in America we'd give them a better shot. And we did. When I was president, we created over 16 million jobs in America. We had the lowest average unemployment rate in 50 years. In fact, my last year as President of the United States, 2024, we created just the last year, 2.2 million additional jobs. You know how many jobs Trump's created in his first year as president? 185,000 jobs. Total. That's it. Of course, it shouldn't be a surprise. Trump's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who had fewer jobs when he left office than when he came into office. That's a fact. And by the way, to see Trump give the State of the Union, that's the last time. Is he still talking? I don't know. But folks, it's unbelievable. The guy talks for almost 2 hours, but never mentions the anniversary of Putin invading Ukraine. Never once. I spent a lot of time in Ukraine. And I've met with Putin more than any other world leader has. The incredible bravery of those people. Imagine how they feel, wondering, are we leaving them? Are we walking away? He doesn't apologize. Think of this. I served for 8 years with Barack Obama and Michelle. He has not said a word, he meaning Trump, about the racist comments referring to him, about how they wrote about Barack and Michelle. I'm not even going to repeat it. Think about it. Think about it. He doesn't mention Renee Good, or Alex Petrie, who were killed by Minnesota ICE, in Minnesota by ICE, or offer even a word of solace to their families. He doesn't offer a word of support, even recognition to Epstein's victims sitting in front of him during the entire time. He never acknowledged them. Folks, after fighting tooth and nail for 1.5 years, we're the ones who beat Big Pharma and brought down prices. We, the Democrats. And despite Trump trying to claim credit, I was the guy who signed that law and wrote that law, brought those prices down. We're the ones who made insulin $35 instead of $400 on average. We're the ones who capped out-of-pocket expenses at $2,000 a year, no matter what they were, for seniors. We're the ones who drove health care costs down for millions of Americans. And yes, it was under my leadership that more people in America got health insurance coverage than ever before in the history of the United States of America. Bridges were going up. Cranes were in the air. We made the largest investment in our nation's infrastructure since Eisenhower built the highway system. The largest ever, over $1 trillion. Another piece of law that I had a long conversation with Jim about was the importance of connecting every home and business with high-speed internet. We talked about how the need for high-speed internet was a little like my grandfather needing a telephone. Not a joke, but it's expensive. Access to high-speed internet, consequential. The need is only going to keep growing. That's why we delivered broadband to over 23 million low-income households for nothing. And guess what? Under my leadership, violent crime in America hit a 50-year low. Murder hit a 50-year low. Small business creation hit a record high, and the economy grew with record growth. And respect for Americans soared around the world. Around the world. Despite everything you read, despite the fact that COVID drove migration to record levels all around the world, the day I left office, border crossing into the United States were lower than the day that I entered that office inherited from Trump. He is, I won't say it. That's just a fact. On the day I left office, I handed Trump the strongest economy in the world. In the world. That's not hyperbole. That's a fact. America was meeting our responsibility to leave our children a better planet. Our allies knew they could trust us. You know, I'm getting pretty old. 40 times 2 plus a lot more. Well, I know more heads of state well than any president of the United States of America in all of history, just because I've been doing it so long. And folks, one more thing. The American knew they had a president who believed in, respected, and followed the Constitution. And the reason I was able to do it is because many of the people sitting right in front of me. Not a joke. From the mayors to the government. Anyway. But none of that's true today. Now the Trump administration is determined to erase all the gains we made in my administration. And the rest of the world is taking note. A poll by a respected Pew Research Center showed the dramatic drop in our reputation around the world. We're no longer viewed the way we were. And folks, if we don't lead the world, who does? Who does? Now think about this. I'm not looking for trouble, but who does if we don't lead the world? China? Russia? Trump doesn't think climate change is real. He doesn't believe in science. So he's walked away from the historic investments and commitments we made to clean energy and saving this planet. In 10 to 20 years, I believe that people will look back and write about what a catastrophic mistake it was, what he's doing. But we don't have to wait 10 years. We know what a grave mistake it is right now. We know how catastrophic it is for the Trump administration to undermine America's commitment to vaccinations. America's walking away from a commitment to vaccines. Did anyone ever think you'd ever see a resurgence of measles in America again? Trump's already jacking up the cost of health care for millions of Americans because of this weird obsession with Barack Obama. What's his problem? He was proud. I was proud to build on Obamacare. Trump is still trying to destroy it. It's almost, there's something wrong with this guy. Oh, no, I really mean it. And now, millions of Americans are paying more to health insurance because of it. But it's not just my record that Trump's trying to erase. He's trying to erase fairness, equity, history, the truth. The African American Museum of History told them to scrub their exhibits on slavery, get rid of them. Told the national parks to remove signs of slavery because it put us in a bad light. told schools they'd stop their funding if they teach the truth about slavery. Told the Smithsonian Institute they too focused too much on, quote, how bad slavery was. Great nations don't bury the truth. They face it. This is a great nation. On the night of the South Carolina primary 6 years ago, Jim Claiborne quoted Alexis de Tocqueville, who wrote, "America is great because she is good. If America ceases to be good, America will cease to be great." My friends, I can't sugarcoat this. These are dark days. The threats we face today are not anything new, but they're being amplified in ways that have never seen before. Our future is literally on the line. Our children are watching, and I'm worried about what they're hearing. So we have to be unapologetic for fighting for our country. The battle for the soul of this nation is one that's never really over. My late friend John Lewis used to say, democracy is not a state, it's an act. And here's the good news. In America, the power still belongs to the people for now. And the way to show the power is vote. Show up and vote. And folks, when we do that, that's bad news for Donald Trump, and he knows it. That's why he's trying to pull out more and more barriers, put them up. He's trying to steal the election because he knows if he can't win your vote, so he's going to do everything he can to prevent you from wanting to vote. Oh, mark my words. I hope I'm wrong, but watch. We can't let this happen. Just look at the polls. More people see of Trump. The more they see him, the less they like him. They don't like that he's raising health care costs, fighting against the Affordable Care Act. And they sure as hell don't like what they saw in Minnesota. Mass ICE agents pulling people out of their homes and literally murdering 2 people in the street. That he doesn't believe. They don't believe the president should be king or dictator. 1 year after his return to office, polling shows the American people say, this is a poll, the best words to describe Donald Trump are, quote, cruelty and corruption. And as a result, across the country, Democrats are already winning in places you'd never expect. So we have reason to be hopeful, because time and again throughout history, in moments of great crisis, Americans have summoned the better angels of our nature and brought our country back from the abyss. I've long said American history is not a fairy tale. It's been a constant push and pull between the best of us and the worst of us. And Trump clearly represents the worst of us. But I refuse to believe, that it is he who they want to be. We're all in this fight for the same reason. We believe in the power of democracy to pull our nation through the worst of moments. And I have no doubt in my mind, with the folks in this room leading the way, we're going to take back the House of Representatives in November. We're going to take back the United States Senate as well. And folks, let's reach out to family and friends and neighbors. Let's help them register to vote. Let's help them show up at the polls. Let's make sure the vote is counted. And let's remind them, it's not too late to save democracy. South Carolina knows it's never too late. Let me close with this. This week, the nation pays tribute to the son of South Carolina, Reverend Jesse Jackson. And guess what? What were the words he used? Keep hope alive. Well, on the seal of your great state is one of South Carolina's mottos. While I breathe, I hope. While I breathe, I hope. It's just another way of saying what my dad used to tell me when I was a kid growing up. Whenever something bad would happen, my dad would look at me and he said, Joey, get up. When you get knocked down, get up. Get up, boy. And folks, I don't believe the good Lord has taken you and me this far to leave us now. So to all of you who love our country, to all of us who are dismayed by the present state of the Union, this is my message to you tonight. There's no time. There's no time to give up. It's time to get up. Get up. Get up. Continue to fight. Continue to fight to be the nation we know we can be. Fair, equal, honest, decent. A country where we give hate no safe harbor. We treat everyone with respect. We don't just remember who the hell we are. We're the United States of America. That's what we got to remember. There is nothing beyond our, I mean it sincerely, there's nothing beyond our capacity. And we do it together. So the world, and I'm looking to you, South Carolina, not a joke. I'm looking to you because I promise you, I hope I'm wrong, you're going to see, beginning now, over the next 4 years, his attempt to make it harder to vote. Who the hell knows? Mark my word, he's going to seek for states to pass laws having you have to have a passport, you have to have this, you have to. Well, can't let it happen, folks. You can't let it happen. It's been the greatest honor of my life to serve you all as President of the United States of America. It's an honor that I never ever thought that would fall to a kid from Scranton, Pennsylvania, who used to stutter. I mean it. So, folks, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, thank you, thank you, and keep fighting.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the former chairman of the Democratic National Committee, Jamie Harrison.
So I got the short straw. I got to come after the president. I'm going to ask, after I'm done with my remarks, we're going to have some short toasts from some of the friends of the president. So I'm going to ask Trav Robertson, Trip King, Senator Gerald Malloy, Fran Person, Adair Fort Burrows, and Mayor Steve Benjamin to all come up here. But let me give some remarks to once again thank our president. Mr. President, my dear friend, tonight South Carolina celebrates you. Not just as President of the United States, but as a man of character. Folks, in 2013, when I became the first black chair of the South Carolina Democratic Party, the keynote speaker at my very first dinner was then Vice President Joe Biden. And during my tenure as chair, Vice President Biden came back to our state again and again and again. Not because he had to, but because he believed in us. He saw South Carolina. He respected South Carolina. And long before the national narrative shifted in 2020, the people of this state recognized something steady and decent in Joe Biden. But I want to tell you about a moment most people never saw. We all remember after the Mother Emanuel massacre, Barack Obama singing Amazing Grace. But there's something that some folks don't know. A few days after the massacre at Mother Emanuel AME Church, before President Obama came for the memorial service, before the cameras, before the nation paused, then Vice President Joe Biden and his family quietly came to Charleston to worship with the families and the parishioners. He came while he and Dr. Biden were grieving the loss of their son, Bo. Think about this. In the middle of his own pain and heartbreak, he showed up to comfort families drowning in theirs. No press conference, no spotlight, just presence. That is who Joe Biden is. And I experienced that same heart on a very personal night for me, election night 2020. My Senate race had just been called. I was sitting in my car on my way to concede to Lindsey Graham. And then my phone rang. It was an unlisted number, and it was Joe Biden. He said, "Jamie, you ran one hell of a race. You should be proud." He said, "We don't know yet how my race is going to end, but I want to call you to tell you I'll never forget this. He said, I want to call you to tell you, if I get over the finish line, you are a part of my team. I will find space for you." He didn't have to make that call. He didn't have to make that promise. But he did, and he kept it. He asked me to serve as chair of the Democratic National Committee, the first time in our nation's history that a sitting Democratic president asked a black person to be chair of the National Party. Folks, that wasn't symbolic, that was intentional. And if you look at the arc of the presidency of Joe Biden, you will see that continuous pattern. The first black woman vice president happened because of Joe Biden. The first black woman sitting on the Supreme Court happened because of Joe Biden. Reordering the presidential primary calendar to place South Carolina first, a state where 40% of enslaved Africans entered this country through the port of Charleston. That happened because he understood our history, but most importantly, he valued us. That is part of the story and the legacy of Joe Biden. Joe Biden has always believed that democracy works best when everyone has a seat at the table. He saw us, he heard us, and he made sure we were included in shaping the future of this nation. So, Mr. President, history will record your groundbreaking legislation. History will record your accomplishments. But those of us who know you will remember the quiet visits. We will remember the phone calls. We will remember the promises kept. We will remember the decency. South Carolina is proud of you. Tonight, we celebrate not just a presidency, but a life of service rooted in faith, in resilience, and in an unwavering belief in the American idea. In this state, we have good home training, Mr. President, because we give those that we love and value their flowers. You have earned those flowers, Mr. President. And now, Mr. President, I am joined by a few of your friends to continue to give you a little tribute. But folks, I want to tell all of you, as you listen to these words, this is a way that you can give your personal tribute to Joe Biden. This is probably the most consequential midterm election we have faced in this nation, at least in my lifetime. Here in South Carolina, we need to stand up and we need to speak out. our first challenge is to recruit a Democrat to run in every seat in South Carolina. Do not leave one seat for the State House empty. Don't let one Republican in South Carolina run unopposed. We have to stand up and speak out and let them know that we believe in leadership. We believe in decency. And that is a charge. So if you want to give Joe Biden a tribute, we'll love your applause. But we need some of y'all to step up. Put your name on the ballot. If you see that there's not a Democrat, as my wife told me when I ran for Lindsey Graham, and I said we needed to find somebody to run, she said, aren't you somebody? It is time for you somebodies to step up and put your name on that ballot. So, enough of my cheap preaching. The first toast, our former state party chair, Trav Robertson. Sorry. I messed up. I'm kicking Trav out. The first toast, I know. Our first toast is somebody who knows Joe Biden probably better than anybody in this state. And that is his dear longtime friend, Trip King.
Thank you, Jamie. It's a pleasure to be here this evening and tell you a little bit about my journey with with Joe Biden, which started with Fritz Hollings. As you know, Fritz Hollings served in the Senate from South Carolina distinguishedly and did so much for South Carolina for 39 years. I was fortunate enough to be by his side 30 years, and Joe Biden was fortunate enough to be with him 32 of those 40 years, and for many of that time they were suite mates on the Senate floor. They shared the same philosophy about government, even though there was 20 years difference in both of them. They thought that without a successful middle class, you didn't have a successful country. It wasn't a healthy country unless the middle class, had some power and wealth and whatnot. Anyway, so I got to know Biden through my connection with Hollings. And when Hollings announced in 2023 that he was retiring from the Senate, Joe Biden and many others came to South Carolina in what my dear friend Congressman Clyburn called the Hollings Farewell Tour, and joined Hollings around the state, thanking him for his service and this, that, and the other. Joe and I became friends, and he decided he wanted to see more of South Carolina's landscape and perhaps meet a few voters leading up to the 2008 Democratic primary. So we traveled and traversed this entire state and had a wonderful time doing it. Unfortunately, Joe Biden didn't make it back to South Carolina because he withdrew after the Iowa primary. But he always knew his heart was here, and the heart of the people of South Carolina were with him. And I told him he would be back, and he assured me he would be back. Unfortunate that he didn't make it back in 2008, but fortunately, South Carolina led the way in electing a president of the African-American president of the United States that picked Joe Biden as his vice president. And I had the opportunity to work for then Vice President Joe Biden during that time, and enjoyed my experiences with him and helped him come back to South Carolina, because as Vice President he came back to South Carolina a lot. So it doesn't surprise me that the people of South Carolina chose him in 2020 as their Democratic nominee. And thanks to Jim Clyburn and the work of so many other people that I worked with over the years, I will tell this one story, which I think is at the core of Biden and his legacy. As we went around the state, you'd run into people of all stripes, colors, whatever, and they would say, tell me about Joe Biden. I said, well, he's chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, he was chairman of the Judiciary Committee, he did this, that. No. They'd tap me on the shoulder and say, no. Tell me about Joe Biden. Tell me about the man. And I thought about that for a while, and from that day forward, every time somebody asked me that question, I would tell them unequivocally that Joe Biden was without question one of the most decent men I have ever known in my life. And I include my father at the top, and Fritz Hollings and Joe Biden as 2 and 3. I think that's significant and important that the people of South Carolina, they follow the issues. They know what's going on, but they wanted to know about the character of this man and the heart of this man. and they found out at it, and that's why they nominated him. Hollings had a saying that went, what a man will do in public office is best told by what he has done in public office. Performance is better than promise. And boy, did Joe Biden deliver for us at every stage of his career, particularly as our 46th president. And Joe, here's to you for your integrity, your character, your honor, but at the end of the day, your damn decency. Thank you.
Next, we will hear from Fran Person.
President Biden, for all the time that I worked for you, remember I used to always keep that 3D model of Williams-Brice Stadium down the street, so you'd always have to walk by it when you come in the office. Well, welcome home. When Crystal Spain called me and asked me if I would give you a tribute tonight, I was deeply honored, and I'll tell you something else. My wife is also a crystal, and you don't mess with crystals. You just say yes. But after I said yes, I got off the phone, and I realized I had just promised her that I'd keep it brief, you know. And I promise you I'll keep it brief. But I literally don't know how to do that. No matter what I say tonight, I'll be kicking myself on the ride home, thinking about all the things that I left out. There simply aren't enough minutes, enough hours, enough days, and definitely certainly not enough words to fully capture what President Biden has meant to me, not only personally, but as our president. If we tried, we'd be here till the cows come home, and we just get through his presidency. You know, I'm a father of 3 beautiful daughters. And you know, Taylor Swift built $1 billion, you know, Eras tour. And it just made me think, if Joe Biden could sing, if he was a singer, his Eras tour would literally never end. And I had a front row seat for almost a decade. But when I think about that, a decade, that doesn't even cover 1/5 of his entire career. One thing you notice immediately when you travel with Joe Biden, no matter the city, no matter the country, rooms like this, they're not events, they're reunions. Packed with people that he worked with in the 70s, helped in the 80s, fought alongside in the 90s, mentored in the 2000s. Reporters out here who have covered him and got to know him. Staff who grew up with him. Families whose lives he's touched. You know, some of my favorite moments with him were the quiet ones. Long car rides, long flights. Flying to Moscow to meet Vladimir Putin. Listening to him tell stories about engaging Russian leaders dating back before the fall of the Berlin Wall. Flying to South Africa for the World Cup. Hearing him talk about stories of all of his engagements and all of his talks with Nelson Mandela. About how when he landed there during the apartheid, how he refused to get off the front of the plane when they were asking the other black congressional delegation members to get off the back. Standing in Kosovo, as young leaders handed him an original copy of their Declaration of Independence. Folks that were my age, that when they were children, living under Slobodan Milosevic, the face of Senator Biden for them was hope. It was America. It was freedom. Whether it was meeting women whose lives were changed, forever changed, because of his work on the Violence Against Women Act. Joe Biden's eras span half a century. But for him, public service was never a title. It was never a position. It was never about naming buildings after himself. It was never about him. It was always about you. It was a calling. And that brings me to what I believe is his real legacy, his secret sauce. See, both Joe Biden and I come from big Catholic families, strong mothers, and a deep respect for the nuns, who are the moral compass of the church. But Mother Teresa once said, if you want to change the world, go home and love your family. Let me repeat that, because it's simple yet profound. If you want to change the world, go home and love your family. For Joe Biden, the son of Jean Finnegan, and Finnegan, his granddaughter's here, I named my child Finnegan after Finnegan and Jean Finnegan. But for Joe Biden, family is the beginning, it's the middle, and the end. He may be a better son, a better brother, a better father, a better husband, but family never stopped at his front door. He treated me like a son, and I promise you, he treats every person, you've all seen it, as if they're somebody's daughter or somebody's son. Politics for Joe Biden has never been about red states or blue states. It's not even about politics. It's not about Christian. It's not about Muslim. It's not about black, white, or brown. It's personal, because everyone is someone's child. That grieving parent who lost someone to cancer, to addiction, to war. That father just trying to provide for his kids. Joe Biden has never walked past anybody. He always treats people with dignity, respect. And trust me, he's never walked past the rope line and past anybody who wanted. I had to keep him on schedule. And you know what? I'm talking too long anyway, so. Listening was his superpower. As Congressman Clyburn says, we know Joe, but most importantly, Joe knows us. And to me, his legacy is also a challenge. If you want to change the world, start at home. Meet people where they are. Learn from the past. Don't fear the future. And treat every single person like family. To raise your class, to President Biden, thank you for showing us that leadership isn't about power. It's about love. It's about family.
Thank you, friend. Now we're hear from former South Carolina Democratic Party Chair Trav Robertson.
Thank you for lowering that. Congressman Clyburn, Madam Chairwoman, Mr. President. It was 1988. I was 14 years old, and I got all of the money, Mr. President, that I had made cutting grass. And I got my dad to take me to McCall's men's store, and I said, I need the Biden tab collar shirt. And I bought as much as that grass money would allow me to buy. And throughout my late middle school and high school, I wore that tab collar shirt to every single thing and a pocket square because of you. Now, my mother, who celebrates 89 years old tonight, the president spoke with her earlier, taught school, as your wife did. She taught speech and debate and English. And so one day she was trying to correct something I was doing, and she said, where did you learn how to talk like that? And I said, I've got a VHS of the best orator in America. And she said, who's that? And I said, Joe Biden, the senator from Delaware. And I said, he's going to be president. And so as a very young man, I have been with you all the way, Mr. President. But let's be very clear. Because of Joe Biden, there was an investment of $6.5 billion in the state of South Carolina. Because of Joe Biden, the 8 historically black colleges and universities in this state received historic investments. Because of Joe Biden, the state that has the worst roads in America, you now see construction in every nook and cranny, and Joe Biden did that. Because of Joe Biden, the students that attend colleges at those universities could get a brief moment of breath from the burden of college debt. That's Joe Biden. Joe Biden turned the dreams of young women of color into a reality when he picked Vice President Harris and nominated and put the first African-American woman on the United States Supreme Court. You did that, President. There will be children in the rural South, and there will be children in rural South Carolina who now have access to broadband and the internet because of those two men sitting right there. Because of Joe Biden, people look at South Carolina differently. Thank you, Mr. President. The fact is that you made our state more than just a flyover state of people running for office. You made all of us in this room feel heard, seen, and loved. And I don't have the words to thank you for that. So, as my 89-year-old mother told me tonight, she said, you tell Joe Biden that I love him, and you tell President Biden that he served our country with honor and dignity, and you can't take that away from anybody. Join me in thanking you, Mr. President.
Next, we will hear from former U.S. Attorney Adair Ford Burroughs.
Mr. President, 6 years ago, South Carolina stood with you because we knew you would always stand with us. Your legacy here is meaningful, it is lasting, it is tangible, not only in things like the infrastructure and broadband and drinking water and ports and roads, in really, really important human ways. You made federal judicial appointments that reflect the full talent and diversity and integrity of our state. God bless you. Thank you for recognizing diversity as a strength of our country. I am so honored to have been appointed by a president that believes in the rule of law, that believes in our Constitution, that believes in integrity and human decency, and who expected those of us who served under you to share those values as well. I am so grateful to have served under a president who values career public servants and our federal service, to have served under a president who lets DOJ fulfill its mission of upholding the rule of law, keeping our country safe, and protecting civil rights. I would like to tell you about Dime Doe, who was a beautiful, vibrant, Black transgender woman from Allendale County. She was murdered because she was transgender. And it was under your administration that we were able to get justice for Dime Doe, for the hate crime that her murderer committed. The first trial in the entire nation under the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act for a hate crime based on transgender status took place right here in Columbia, South Carolina, just a few blocks away. That is part of your legacy, President Biden. There is so much work done here that is a part of your legacy, and I want you to know it. I want you to know that you had career men and women here that convicted a gang of armed robbers who were preying on immigrants just because they were easy marks. I want you to know that men and women here produced a thorough report that detailed horrifying and unconstitutional conditions at a local jail that spurred change and saved lives. That is all part of your legacy, too. I don't think even the congressman knows this about me, but Secretary Madeleine Albright was a bit of a mentor of mine through her work with the Truman Foundation. I'm wearing a brooch of hers tonight in honor of her and you. And one of the most impactful things she ever said to me was, you can tell the measure of a person by how they act, what they say, and what they do when they are the most powerful person in the room. That stuck with me strong. And Mr. President, you have been the most powerful person in the world for 4 years. And we saw your character and your decency and your kindness. It is the honor of my career to have served the people of South Carolina and your administration. And all I can say is thank you. I'm so grateful. Thank you for standing with the people of South Carolina. We will forever, forever be proud to stand with you. To our president, goodbye.
Next, we will hear from the former mayor of this great city of Columbia and also a Biden White House appointee, my good friend, Steve Benjamin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, I came prepared to give a very brief comment tonight. People think because you're in politics you love public speaking. I often tell people I never enjoyed public speaking. Every time I get to speak, I think of the first time I spoke at my home church, the St. John Baptist Church, that the president and congressman were kind enough to come visit. When I was done, a little guy came up to me. He said, "Now grow up, I'm going to give you some money." I said, "Well, thank you, son, but why?" He said, "Because my dad said you're one of the poorest speakers we ever had, right?" So I think I get up and say some brief comments. I literally spent too much time around both of these gentlemen because Adair will attest to it. Everything I plan to say, both of these gentlemen have said. But I will say this. People often forget where we were in 2020. The greatest pandemic since 1918 cost 1.2 million American lives alone. The greatest economic disruption since 1929 facing this country. The greatest social protest since 1968 after the murder of George Floyd. One person was prepared to take on the task to lead this great nation at that challenging times. He got shots in arms, saved lives, and then he decided to save livelihoods. You've heard the statistics as the president and congressman both laid out. It takes a person, as Adair and all the speakers before me just mentioned, of a certain quality, a certain character to lead in times like this. Mr. Clyburn often paraphrases de Tocqueville, and the president took that out of my speech as well earlier, so I'm not going to say it. But the reality is that America is great because America is good. And people often forget that a prerequisite to being great is that you must truly be good. We have a good man here, and we're so thankful to have had him as the president of these United States. Mr. President, you quoted our state motto, one of our state mottos, Dum Spiro Spero, while I breathe I hope. Some of us who care about Latin know the rest of it. That's not in our state motto. Dum Spiro Spero, while I breathe I hope. Dum Spero Vivo, while I hope I live. Dum Spiro Dum Vivo Amo, while I live, I love. South Carolina loves Joe Biden. And Mr. President, it's so much of an honor to have you here with us today to tell you we love you. We're thankful for you. I always find it odd to toast a teetotaler, okay? The president doesn't drink if you don't know that, right? So I think it's a little weird, but nonetheless, Joseph Robinette Biden, here's to you. Thank you, my friend. God bless you.
And our final toast tonight, we will hear from another longtime friend of our President, Joe Biden. We will hear from former South Carolina State Senator Gerald Malloy.
Good evening, folks. This is South Carolina, y'all. Give yourselves a round of applause. Joe Biden has stopped by to see us today. I love music. One of my favorite songs is that a chair is still a chair. Even there's no one sitting there. But a house is not a home unless there's someone there to hold you tight. Joe Biden has come back here to hold us tight. He's come here to give us a message as well. Jim Clyburn has given us a message. I leaned over and said, "Who's next?" He said, "We have to figure that out. But it's going to take all of you." This happened before. But then we go back during the time I was fortunate enough to be an early endorser of then Senator Joe Biden, because at the time there was a young man who was the same age as me that was running, Barack Obama. I caught the dickens. But when Senator Biden came to visit, he came by to my church. He said, "If I had families just like yours, so I'd be president of the United States." That's the moment I knew that one day he would be. So I heard someone say that what defines a person is not their power but their endurance. Unimaginable personal loss. He told you about the loss of his wife. He told you about the loss of his daughter. He told you about the damage that was done to his sons. And then he balanced that with public life. And the people that came to his aid were from where? South Carolina. He endured. And not just endured, but remained steady. In a time when politics often rewards the loudest voice, he offered something quieter. He offered dignity. He offered decency. He offered faith in democracy. He offered service. He offered the fact to us that he's a good man. I've known him for a long time, long before the presidency. And what I've seen is consistent. A man who believes in people, a man who believes in this country, and a man, South Carolina, that shows up. He came back here time and time again. And so 6 years ago, South Carolina showed up. In a consequential moment, the state chose steadiness over chaos. We chose enduring values over passing anger. He did not seek to divide us. He seeked to unite us. He reminded the nation that character still matters. History will sort out chapters and elections. That's what history does. But what it cannot do is carry the responsibility that belongs to us. That is our charge. 2 stories quick. I was a lawyer for Clem Pinckney. In the midst of 77 bullets, riddling Mother Emanuel, with Jennifer and her daughter hidden under a desk, Joe Biden's picture sat on Clementa Pinckney's desk. It was the longest night drive home of my life. I came back the next morning. We went to Jennifer's house to write the obituary. I get a call then from Vice President Biden. Says, I'm here with you. I'm going to be with you. And then a month before that, we already knew Trip King is there. My late friend Larry Raskey, who was so important to this campaign, he was there. Right before that, Bo Biden, his beautiful son, came to me and said, and my son Donovan, who's somewhere here, he says, what your dad did for me, for my daddy, I'm going to do for you. We were there at St. Anthony's, at his funeral, Padaway, and Bo Biden did that. He served what his dad did. He was decent. He served his community. He lived the life of service, life's most pervasive question. So if we value decency, we must practice it, and we must vote. If we value steady leadership, we must demand it and vote. If we believe character matters, we must choose it again and again, but we must vote. And we have to choose leaders that will be like-mindedness like us. And if South Carolina is called on again, we're going to get a chance, y'all. We get a chance to end up picking someone that could be the next president of the United States, and that person has to be decent. So tonight, I want to raise a glass and a little bit of a poem to him. I'd rather see a sermon than to hear one any day. I'd rather one walk with me than merely show me the way. The eyes are better people than the ear. Find counseling is confusing, but your example is always clear. I've skipped around. I may misunderstand you in the fine advice you give, but there's no misunderstanding as to how you act and how you live. Joe Biden, you have lived a decent and good life, and we're proud to support you, and we thank you for your endurance, for your decency, and your responsibility to share. And I tell all of y'all, do not bet against America, and do not bet against South Carolina. South Carolina can pick your next president just like they did Joe Biden. Let's get together and do it. Raise a glass to Joe Biden for showing us that.
Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for celebrating our 46th president of these United States, Joe Biden.